that's what happened to parents, is they woke up.
Yeah.
And, I think it's a good thing that parents have awakened to the challenges that are going on right now. But the left has been tremendously aggressive, you could say, for, it's been 100 years or so.
I am so pleased to be joined by North Carolina Congressman Ted Budd. Congressman, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Virginia. Thanks for having me.
As we think about what is happening right now in our nation and in our schools in particular, I think we think back to the past 2 years, and so many Americans have really been awakened to what is happening in education and what are these really progressive policies that are being pushed and promoted on our kids. I think this is something that North Carolinians have been aware of for maybe longer than the rest of the country. You all were the first state to have a bathroom bill up for debate that would allow biological men to use women's bathrooms. You all have been on the forefront of this fight. So why do you think that the far left is so determined to promote and push their ideas into our classrooms and on our kids in school?
Well, you're right, Virginia, this has been going on for quite a while, but I don't know if it accelerated, but what COVID did is it drove a lot of kids out of the school. It drove a lot of parents home, those who could work remotely. And they started watching what was happening on their kids' computer screens, and they started seeing what was being pushed. The left, foolishly, tactically, didn't change they didn't soften their message. They drove even harder during under the cover of COVID. So parents were seeing this and saying, well, it's like the theme of the conference here. It's awake, not woke, and that's what happened to parents, is they woke up.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good thing that parents have awakened to the challenges that are going on right now. But the left has been tremendously aggressive, you could say, for, it's been 100 years or so.
Yeah.
And it just seems to exponentially accelerate.
Well, and I think that's been the one positive of COVID, is this unveiling of parents actually kind of getting to see in the window of what is my child actually learning, what are they being taught. But we know that there's so many damages to remote learning. You have just sponsored a bill that was introduced by Representative Mark Green of Tennessee that says, okay, we have to get our kids back in school, and we shouldn't be providing federal funding to schools, to educational institutions that aren't offering in-person learning. What do you think are the long-term effects for our kids who have been out of school for a year, for 2 years?
Well, as humans, we're supposed to interact with others. It's part of our God-given design. And we take a lot of that away when we only interact with screens. You have a lack of social maturity. You're seeing even Atrium Health in North Carolina, one of the big health providers based out of Charlotte and also now Winston-Salem. They're seeing 28% increases in those that are age 5 to 11 in their mental emergencies cases. So I'm tremendously concerned that you're seeing somewhere around a 25% increase in psychiatric needs for the youngest in our society. And we hope that's short-lived, but my concern is that it's not.
Yeah, that's really frightening to hear you say that. Well, and one of the other major issues that we are facing in our schools is the teaching of critical race theory. We're seeing this really far left agenda being promoted, and you actually serve on the subcommittee for diversity and inclusion in Congress. Obviously, we hear those words. Everyone has different meanings associated with those words. People draw conclusions right away. What exactly is your mission on the subcommittee for diversity and inclusion?
So that's a subcommittee of the Financial Services Committee. So it's particularly in banking, insurance. A lot of people come up to me around the state, since I'm traveling statewide now, running for the U.S. Senate, and they're asking me everywhere in my district, around the state, and they're saying, what is this ESG? Environmental, social, governance, attacks from the left, trying to control, through diversity, through environmentalism, through governance, and to really press this woke, leftist, progressive agenda that not only does it hurt individuals, I think it destroys the value of these companies economically. So it hurts us from every single angle. It's just, and we've seen this accelerate just like we have from our schools over the last 2 years. One of the things that we see as our national motto, yes, it's in God do we trust, but it's also e pluribus unum, more of a national slogan. And so we see the Latin there, which is out of many, one. Critical race theory, the irony there is it's trying to ostensibly solve racism, but it adds more racism and more division in order to do so. We need more things that are e pluribus unum, that bring us together, Out of many one, out of many states, one nation, out of many peoples, one country. So we need to have more of that rather than more division, which we see through critical race theory and ESG and other advances from the left.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so critical to be tackling those issues really on the home front and be talking about them and raising that awareness. And as we think back to all of these issues, whether it be critical race theory or COVID that we're facing right now in America, you have been really clear that we need to make sure that at home we are taking care of the folks back home, and that includes in our hospitals. And you've recently asked the government to let rural hospitals with staffing shortages to not require all employees to be vaccinated. What exactly was your motivation behind this ask of the government?
Well, I mean, you have so many people in the cities, urban areas, but especially in rural areas that are choosing not to be vaccinated. They have concerns about the vaccine. Now, let's remember, I was on President Trump's team helping with Operation Warp Speed. The presence of the vaccine, I believe, is a good thing. But nowhere in the Constitution does it allow for a mandate that someone should be vaccinated. I believe it's absolutely against individuals' right to life, liberty, and their pursuit of happiness. So we can't allow the Constitution to be violated in search of public health. And that's still in question. So we want to make sure that the hospitals have as many people as they need. There are staffing shortages. It doesn't matter if you're going to, well, throw back to our state, Bojangles Biscuits, right? Or Biscuitville, one of the great places there, or any quick serve restaurant or fast food restaurant, all the way across to manufacturing, trucking. We see so many shortages. Why would they want to make that worse with a vaccine mandate? When these are the smartest people when it comes to public health, these are nurses and practitioners that work day in and day out. They know the risks. They know their own health status. Let them make the decision rather than government mandating it to a person.
Yeah, well, and I think for so long we were calling them heroes, and gosh, it's got to be so hard to then for them, one moment they're being called a hero and thanked for their service, and the next they're being told, you don't have a job anymore because you refused the vaccine, even though you're a medical professional.
Yeah.
So thank you for helping to stand up for their rights.
In Virginia, it's happening in our military as well with these mandates. You're seeing folks that have impeccable records of service in all branches of our military that are being denied religious or personal exemptions to the vaccine, that are being asked to leave the military in a time where the world's more in flux than it's ever been in the last 30 years. So it's tremendously concerning, not only what it does to our medical providers and our hospitals, what does it do to our potential police forces? What does it do to our military as well? Mm-hmm. Let people make their own decisions and live with the risk thereof. If somebody needs to wear a mask or have a vaccine, I'm totally supportive of that. We shouldn't make fun of anyone for their decisions there, but we should let it be an individual's decision.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I've spoken with teachers as well that have that same concern, that their school districts are asking them, hey, you have to be vaccinated, you have to be vaccinated, and they're in fear of losing their jobs now. How is North Carolina dealing with that?
The same way. Again, we have a Republican state legislature, but we have a Democrat governor. Unfortunately, his policies track right along with the progressive left. It's mask mandates. We see a tremendous amount of hypocrisy there with Governor Cooper. But now the left is trying to race forward because they see a red wave coming in 2022. All of their policies now are about mitigation and damage mitigation, trying to lessen whether it's redistricting, whether it's mask policies, hoping that by the time that November gets here, that American people will forget how oppressive the left was towards them. I don't think that the American people, North Carolinians in particular, are going to forget how oppressive the left was in schools, in hospitals, police forces, workforce in general, in their mandates. So we will remember.
Before we let you go, I want to ask you, we've talked a lot about schools, we've talked about public education, things that they're facing. Some people are at the point where they're saying, you know what, I think the public schools are lost. What are your thoughts? Can they be redeemed? Can we pull them back from all these far left policies?
I think I've been to every type of school, public high school in Davie County, where I still live on our family farm today, and went to a public college. I wouldn't say they're lost. And I would say on the net, we have more good teachers and administrators than we do bad. But we always notice the rotten apples and the rotten eggs. That's what needs to leave the system. Let's be people that promote constitutional freedoms to our next generation to preserve what's great about this country. So I'm Look, we've homeschooled our children. My daughter Macy is with us today. She's 17 years old, headed to Liberty University next year. So we've got, our kids have been homeschooled, but many of our friends were public schooled. And in Davie County, we've got great schools, but a lot of places, including closer to where you are in Northern Virginia. Loudoun County, we've seen just tremendous woke agenda. The parents are waking up and putting a stop to it. I've never seen more energy in my history, pre-politics, because I've only been in politics 5 years or so, but I've never seen more energy for county commissions and school boards. So I'm proud of parents that are stepping up and being involved.
It's very impressive. I agree. Well, Congressman, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you joining the show.
Thank you, Virginia.